Good morning. Oh my God, and what a sunny morning it is. And why not? Because we are seeing the bright and lovely LuAnn Nigara this morning of a Well-Designed Business podcast. We're going to be heading to Window Works and to LuAnn's home to, find out a little bit more about this lovely lady. She's just recently written a book. She's so inspiring to so many people. And on her podcast, she has the best guests and asks the best questions. And I'm really excited to find out a little bit more about her. So here we go. We're going to go and see her. Before we get to LuAnn, be sure that you're subscribed to my channel. It's Claire Jefford Coaching, and hit the little bell on the right hand side, and that way you will be notified when I do new videos which will help you run your successful interior design business with my no-nonsense approach to success. Okay, so I'm so excited to be here with LuAnn.
Oh, I'm really happy too.
Oh, LuAnn, so we're here at Window Works in New Jersey, and I really wanted to do this too because I think a lot of people want to know a little bit more about LuAnn, even though you now have your book, and just find out a little bit about what LuAnn gets up to in her spare time, if she has any spare time. And I've also got a couple questions that some of the designers have asked me to ask you.
Wow.
So this is a little bit of a look at LuAnn.
Okay, well, I'm really, really glad you're here in New Jersey, Claire. I think this is awesome.
Okay.
And I'm so excited for today to do this with you, but also for tomorrow. Like, so many people are coming out to see you and meet you because they're like, Claire's coming. So,
so
plus your topic, how to manage client expectation is a killer topic.
It's huge.
Yeah. It's
so
a
important.
great. No, I love it. So this is awesome. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. So let's just dive right into it. And I'm going to ask you kind of a question that you ask a lot of your guests sometimes, but this is a little bit about what made you want to start a podcast and get into coaching side of design. So really, what is your why?
What is my why?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the why has two separate parts. So it's a chicken and an egg. So the real live story is that I was on a podcast it'll be 3 years ago this summer, and the podcast was called Weird Entrepreneurs. And then right after that, I got invited to be on another podcast. And the fact is that when I hung up the Skype call from the first podcast, I was just like, oh, sweet Jesus, I need to do that. I need to do that.
Right.
Exactly. Like, it was...
Because you loved it so much?
I just can't tell you, like, the jazz of, like, having a conversation with somebody. And, of course, I made such rookie mistakes as a guest on that podcast. Like, it's... Like, I look back now and I cringe. I'm like this. But the experience was so... That conversation was just so exciting, and I realized that I really liked talking about our business and what we did. And of course, I always knew I was a business junkie and all of that stuff, so that was fun. But the thing is, but the why is because I couldn't just start a podcast. Like, I love to do a lot of things. I love to go to yoga. I love to run. I was doing triathlons at the time.
Wow.
I used to exercise a whole lot before the podcast.
I think we all exercise a bit more before our businesses.
Oh my God! But I mean, that was that was a non-negotiable for me. All the years of having Window Works, raising kids, everything. Like, I had a 6-day-a-week rule. Like, I moved my body 6 days a week. Period. End of discussion. Right? And podcasting killed that. Okay. Yeah. However, but the thing was,
you still look great.
Thank you. But the thing was that I knew that if I were going to do a podcast, it couldn't be a hobby podcast. Mm-hmm. It had to support the Window Works mission, because I knew that it's something that would take time out of my day, take time out of my personal life, take time out of my business life. Yeah. And so it took, but I was so jazzed and wanted to do it. I had been listening to podcasts at that point for probably 5 years already, and so then to be on the other end of it, I was like, to do this. So it took me from the end of July until about the middle of September before I came up with what the podcast could be about that would be interesting enough to me to show up to do it, and would support the Window Works mission. And once I came up with that, I did the business plan. Another month later, I set the Vincennes down, and I was like, buddy, I got an idea. You know what I mean? And so that was the thing. So it started from, because it's everything we say in business, you have to be passionate about it, right?
Absolutely.
Because, it's work.
Yeah.
It's a job. Yeah. It's still a job. And so I knew that as much as I love triathlons and I love this and I love mothering, I love to talk about philosophies on raising children and all that stuff. But I knew knew that that wouldn't get me out of bed. It'd be
Yes.
like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I could talk about business like in my sleep,
Which,
and sales and strategy and negotiation in
Yes.
my sleep. And so then I was like, but then you have to also further narrow down, because okay, does the world need one more entrepreneur podcast?
Right.
Like, Google it in iTunes.
Yeah.
Like, out of 600,000 podcasts, there's like 290,000. So I was like, all right, that's not going to work. And it took me that 6 or 8 weeks or whatever it was. But when I landed on it, I knew I landed on it.
Yeah.
I
On
knew,
the business side, focusing on the
yeah,
business
like
side.
in other words, that combination of filling the business need for me personally to
Yeah.
be jazzed and be able to have those conversations with authenticity and with genuine interest,
And
right?
because you're learning all the time too. You're
That's
learning
it.
from
It's
all
like
these amazing guests.
it's a comparison of what worked for me, what didn't work for me. Oh, there's the little light bulb moment because it worked for you that way.
Yes.
All of that. But then also, well, what would support WindowWorks? Who's WindowWorks client?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, so we have the retail client, and then we have the trade client. Huh. Well, I can't really go out and talk to consumers about how to run a business. That's like too broad. But what if I talk to interior designers? And it also was my experience in running WindowWorks with our team the last 36 years that if I had a nickel for every time that we came in contact and were fortunate enough to do business with an interior designer whose work was outstanding but was not profitable.
Yeah.
Like, we knew, we identified it 20 years ago,
Yeah.
that your success as an interior designer, it's like 10% your talent.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 15% your talent, maybe.
Yeah, you have to know the business side, or else you're not going to.
Well, otherwise it is a hobby.
Yeah.
You're just,
Yeah.
like you're constantly doing things for free.
free, yes.
You know what I mean? And you're saying,
You know.
I did it, took me 9 hours, but I'll bill you for 3.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? That's free 6 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've said it on the show 1,000
Yeah.
times. I have marveled at designers that we've worked with over the years that legit had a modicum of talent.
Yeah.
Like, just one step above the rest. Like, basically good taste.
Yes.
Like, let's be serious.
Yes.
There's a lot of designers out there that have good taste.
Yes, of course.
But you know what? Sometimes they were the ones that were making $50,000, $80,000, $60,000 a year in their pocket for their family.
Yeah.
And then others that are like in magazines and like are looking at me going, I haven't had a client in my pipeline for 6 months.
Yes, crazy.
So
Yeah.
that was the why. The why was a genuine interest on my part to do it.
Yeah.
And
Which
then
shows through the podcast.
thank you.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's 2.5 years later, over 300 episodes, and I'm not bored of it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always like, okay, who's on today?
Yeah,
What are we
yeah,
going to
yeah.
talk about? You
Yeah.
know, researching them, coming up with that little thing.
Yes. Well, actually, so I have to jump to this question.
Okay.
Because you kind of just did a good lead into that.
Okay.
So you do research your guests very well. I know that I haven't been on the podcast myself as well. But one of the things that when I meet other designers and we're at a trade show and people are like, do you listen to podcasts? What podcast? Well, your name always comes up, and we say, what do you love about LuAnn's podcast? And time again, honestly, people are saying they love that they're sitting there and they're listening, and then they think, oh, I just wish she'd asked this question. If she just asked it, and then you ask that question. You literally go, well, hang on a second. I just want to step back a little bit and ask that. And we're like, how do you read
know
minds?
that?
How does she read minds? Right?
Well,
Seriously.
because I'm in it with you.
Yeah, you are.
You know what I mean? I'm in it. I am
Yes.
in it 110%.
You are. We love
I
that.
am not like thinking about my next question. I am not thinking about, well, I wanted the interview to go this way.
Yeah. I've got something to do later. You're there.
I am
You're
there. And
Yeah.
and if you just said something to me that I'm just sort of like,
Mhm.
I don't get that.
You have you step back.
Then I'm like,
I
wait,
love
you
that.
got to explain that again because that didn't make
Yeah.
sense.
Well, thank you for doing that because I have to say, as I said, I've talked to a lot of people. We all say the same thing, and also because sometimes that when you're listening to something, or if you know about it, or the person your guest knows a lot about it, but the people listening may not know. You kind of take for granted that, like, if you say SEO, well, you're SEO, and some people are probably like, well,
What is SEO?
So
Right.
you kind of got to go back a little
Right,
bit, right?
right.
And sometimes it may seem a little bit basic for some of the listeners,
Right.
But for the majority, we're going, Thank you. Thank
Yes.
you for asking that question.
No, it's true. And,
Yeah.
and look, there's been a lot of situations that I do already understand what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But it's exactly that. Not everybody in the
Yeah.
audience is at the same level.
Yeah.
So I'll just be like, okay. I mean, I think you can tell when I actually don't understand. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, no,
I don't
you
get
do.
it. Like, I don't get it.
And you know what? I think that's great too, because we don't know everything, and it's fine to say, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know this.
Right.
So thank you so much.
Yeah,
for that. That's,
thank you.
That's I'm just giving you that feedback, because a lot of designers that I talk to go like,
Oh.
this is what she does that we just love.
Yeah.
you know?
Thank you.
So in order to pursue this type of side business, side hustle, or I don't really like calling it a hustle because you're making it, so it's not like it's, but share what it means to have a well-designed business in place before you can actually move on to have something else. What does it mean to have your people, to have your processes? What does that take?
Yeah, no, that's true, because what do we talk to? You coach designers, I coach designers, and you've got what's the catchword now is the shiny object syndrome, right?
Squirrel,
okay.
squirrel.
Yeah. And so it's true. It's WindowWorks is well established, and when I launched the podcast, WindowWorks was in its 34th year, and so it's locked down, and we have a whole team there, working and doing everything. Kimberly is, we call her my mini me. She's as good as, if there's 10 things that you want in a person that custom designs window treatments and does window treatment sales, she probably has 7 things that she does. We probably have 7 things that we do in common together, that we both do really well, about the same level. And then she's got 3 things that she does way better than me, and then I got 3 things that I do better than her.
Which is kind of it's a nice mix.
Right. So, but the point is that I'm with somebody with a core skill set that does better than 50% as well as I can do it. Yeah. And that is in place before I step out to do the podcasting a couple of days a week.
Essential.
Yes, it is, because otherwise if she was still on the learning track, if she was only up to speed and only doing 3 out of 10 skill sets as well as I was doing, well then you're going to take a dip in WindowWorks. Yeah. And so what's sort of the point of that?
And you're going to get stressed when you're not here thinking what's going on, is it being run
properly,
right?
Exactly. And so, and that's just covering my responsibility as a salesperson here. Yes. And, beyond that, you've got my husband, who is really the head on the horse and manages the whole business and sees everybody and what they're doing and where they're going, and that we're all in place. And then, of course, Billy is just the best window treatment installer on the planet. I mean, seriously, and leads our installation team. And Adriana has got it. It is exactly that. It's exactly as you said, Claire. It's like if you are a designer out there and you are still really learning to work in your process and work in how to onboard a client and how to manage a project and how to evaluate a project after it's done, for the good, the bad, and the ugly of a project. If you're not really doing that with your eyes closed, then maybe you shouldn't be the next video queen for YouTube. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like for your business. Right. You know what I'm saying? So you add these layers once that's working. Yeah. Right?
I agree.
Yeah.
Now, thank you, LuAnn. You mentioned Vinny there, so what I wanted to say is, just touching on that. Now, when I first met you was in Las Vegas at the show. Yes. And that was my first market. Yeah, mine too. Which was so much fun. Seeing you through the glass at the wind. Right. Now you had your husband there with you. Yeah. And that's part of the reason why I brought Chris along for this week with me, because I think it's really important. So you inspired me to do that, because I remember talking to you and you were saying how important it is for him to see what it is that you're doing, like what it is that this means. I mean, he can look at photos, I'm sure, like Chris, and watch some videos, but I mean, to actually be there and see you doing your thing. Can you talk a little bit about how important it is to have that supportive partner? Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness, God. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you have to understand, the Vincenz is not on Facebook, and he's not on Instagram. He's barely on email. So he really doesn't have a full grasp of this community that we're involved with, that we're so lucky to be part of. And that when you go to a place for the first time, that you are immediately, the second time we meet each other, we had to talk for 9 hours before we put the camera on. Chris is like, are we going to do this? Exactly, right? And so he doesn't have that level of understanding of how you really
could feel like you know somebody. And he also doesn't really have the advantage of seeing and understanding and reading the ways that the podcast and the book and the coaching is impacting the lives of interior designers.
Because he's here running the business, right?
Yes, exactly. And he's sort of like, what do you have to go to Vegas for? Like, what do you have to go to High Point for? Like, can't you just do it?
Fun, right?
Can't you just do it from home? And I'm like, well, and so it was good. And plus, let's be serious, it's Las Vegas. So he'll go to Las Vegas if I said there's a turtle race. There's a turtle race in Vegas, man. You want to go? Sign me up, Lou. So it was a good opportunity to mix both. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but he did. He sat at the Kravitz showroom.
Yes, that's right.
Doma and Kravitz had the event where I interviewed Kelly Ellis live.
I was there,
And he was like, "Huh, there's something happening here." I'm like, something's happening.
Yeah, and it's so important. It's so important not only just in what you're doing now, what I'm doing, but also even just in a business. I find if you don't have a partner who is supportive,
brutal.
It's very hard, right? Brutal. Because as we talked about a little bit, like off the camera was maybe we're not making, typically designers are not making what they should be making. Right. So a lot of times it seems like a hobby for them, and then the partner could be like, well,
a little
what's going on? Are you actually making money, right? What's
exactly.
going on? So it's so important to have that. Support.
He's a double-edged sword of total cheerleader, supporter. Oh my God, this is incredible. And really, and is it making money? And what are you doing? And where are you going? And why are you going there? Like, what is the why on that? He's like, what are you getting out of it? Why would you go? So it's the best combination of all, because I respect his opinion immensely.
And he keeps you accountable. Right?
He younger, I would have run headlong.
Right.
You know what I mean? And he doesn't understand that I wouldn't now. But I know I would not. But it's always good to have him there going, hello.
Yes.
Earth to Luan. What's happening?
We need them to keep us grounded a little bit, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So another thing that I really love what you do on your podcast, Luan, is when you refer back to other episodes that you've done. So what I'd like to know that, because if we're listening to something like Nicole the other day, she did the episode about website, what you should do and have in place on your websites before you even start to develop the website, right? And I'm listening to that because I'm currently redeveloping my own website.
Oh, okay.
So I was really interested in that episode. And then, she's talking about something specific, and you go, if you want to know more about, I think it was the opt-in, how to create it, go back and refer to episode
to Kay Whitaker's episode I probably talked about,
So I have a question. Do you just know those off the top of your head, or are you like looking at a piece of paper? Are you quickly excelling in Google going, Control F, when we talk about the opt-in?
There's a short way to do that?
I can show you how.
Okay, then you might have to.
This is all, you just know
what it is the first year or so of the podcast, the first year, I didn't bother telling the episode number. I would just say, that part I just remembered. I'd be like, I talked about that with Kay Whitaker. So Nicole's telling you that you should have an opt-in, but how to have an opt-in is this episode with Kay Whitaker, right? So for the first year or so, I would just mention the guests that talked about it, right? But then in the last 6 months, there's more than 300 episodes, and it gets. I know that it would be easier for somebody listening if they knew the episode number. And so what happens is I don't really, as much as I research, and as much as I have a list of questions that's unique to each guest. If the conversation takes us down a different road, I scrap those questions. Right. Because if it's better, more interesting, takes more time, well, I'm not going to be like, but I had these 4 dumb questions to ask you. You know what I mean? And so what happens is I don't know that I have never known ahead of time that I'm going to mention a previous episode or guest. I've never known ahead of time. Wow. And so now, that's why you'll hear me say, let's see if I can multitask. Because as I'm having the conversation, I'm opening iTunes, I'm going into my own podcast feed, and then I'm putting your name in, and I'm like, and it was episode 229.
Okay.
So,
got
so
it's very helpful, I have to say, because then it makes it much easier than for us not have to go through back and figure out where it is or who the person was. And,
well, it's funny because I have to tell you, I'm glad to know that it's helpful, and I'm glad to know that you like it and that you know that others do as well. Because in the beginning, I was saying it to add credibility to what the guest was saying.
Right.
Oh, we had another guest that said the same
Right.
thing. And also in my mind, I know that you need to hear something 2, 3, 4 different times and ways,
Yes.
right? And so that was like, oh, okay, this guest is saying this, our other guest said it as well. And then in the last couple of months, as I really take the time to point out the episode and stuff, I have to say, I wondered, did it seem too pushy?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, and then I was like, you know what? I think it's just going to make it easier for people. So I'm glad to know that it comes out, because that's the reason, to make it easier.
So when we do, the blog posts, right? And we link back, and that way you're keeping people on your blog for longer.
Right.
It's good for Google. It's good for SEO.
Right.
So it's the same when you're doing yours, right? And then you're mentioning it, and then we can go back and check it out.
Right. And I have to say, in the last 6 months or so, the other reason why I started actually taking time to multitask and try and find the episode numbers, because, you know, the listenership has literally quadrupled.
Yeah.
And so in the first 6 months, everybody listened to every show. They were listening to it in real time as it came out.
Yes.
But if you just found the show like in March, and I say, oh, we talked about this with, you know, Kay Whitaker, they're like, who's Kay Whitaker?
Yeah.
So that's why I started to do it, to make it easier for newer people. I'm glad because that's why it's there, to make it easy.
Yeah. You make it a lot of things easier for a lot of people.
Good.
Okay, so I have to obviously congratulate you on your book.
No, thank you.
Yeah, that is amazing. I'm picking up my own copy. Today, and I want you to sign it.
I will, definitely.
So what was your inspiration for writing a book? What was your inspiration, and how having that kind of author to your title, like how has it changed what you do?
The inspiration from it came from really back to the germ of the podcast when I settled on that sweet spot of loving to talk about business, and my my business world has been in the design industry. So why be a generalist? Why not niche all the way down, right? But when I think about, it's like we always say, you say for video, you're talking to one person. When you write a blog post, you're talking to one person. So this book is talking actually to 2 people, but with the same sort of problem. One knows they have a problem and the other one doesn't, but the problem is the same. So the book is literally 10 chapters, quick and dirty, no putzing, no fluff, no like repeating yourself because that makes me crazy. Of if you are brand new in business and you're just saying, okay, there are your 320 episodes on how to run a design business or any business. There are 500,000 other podcasts on how to be a good business person. There's video on how to be a good business. It's like, but could you just put it into the 10 things that I have to do? Not a full-on explanation on how to do video marketing, just the 10 actual principles that I need to open up a business and have my bases covered. I mean, from the basics of gathering your team and gathering, knowing your company mission and understanding what leadership is and all of that other stuff. So that's the one person. And then the second person is, if you've been in business, whether it's 3 years, 5 years, 15 years, and you just feel like you are always in a circle and you're not making money and you're just like, I don't understand it. I'm a really hard worker. Like, I'm not here watching TV instead of working. I actually am working hard. And every year, there's no dollar bills in my checkbook. Like, what is that about? Well, you've probably missed some of these steps. And so if you can just sit back, take an hour out of your life, read this book, and go, okay, I skipped these 2 things.
And that's why.
And you'll just get back on track. I know it. I know it.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm so excited. I can't wait to read it. I wish I wanted to have read it by now.
Oh, that's okay.
It's the time. It's getting time.
Yeah.
And I want to. So let's talk about time for a second.
Okay.
One of the questions I wanted to ask was, what does LuAnn get up to in her spare time? And then we're wondering, does LuAnn have any spare time?
LuAnn wishes she did.
So between, Window Works, the podcast, the travel, when you kick back and relax with your Pinot Noir, or what do you like to do? What's your kind of downtime?
I mean, this sounds crazy, but it used to be truly, this part doesn't sound crazy, but used to be truly, I really did take anywhere from 1 to 3 hours a day to exercise.
Wow.
that was I love doing this. Like I would listen to podcasts, I would go for a run, then I would come back and I would, change and put my bike clothes on, and then I would go for an hour and a half bike ride. I mean, that was totally a Saturday for me. It would be get up, work an hour or two, go for a 3-mile run, come back, do whatever, and then like go for a 2-hour bike ride, listening.
On your own?
On my own. Doing podcasts or whatever, listening to podcasts and everything. This is before I had a podcast.
Yeah.
And that was always, this is in addition to your family time, right? So that was my time. That was what I did, and that's what I would like to do. And so it's always walking, running, or biking, or swimming. I also would swim laps. And I had my MP3 player for under the water, and I would go to the pool.
Wow. You are hardcore.
Yeah, and I would do 40 or 50 laps and get out, and I would just. This is what I love to do. There's no time for that anymore. There really isn't. I'm really, 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 really glad if I get like a 20-minute like boot camp thingy in doing squats and mountain climbers, and then like I get a 2-mile run in. Like I'm.
So is that your downtime though? Is that your kind of like I know you had an event last night with your mom.
Yeah. So the thing is now what's happened truthfully, the downtime now is one thing is there's something that's non-negotiable. Non-negotiable is Friday and Saturday night is going to be me and Vinny.
Right. Yeah.
That's non-negotiable.
Yeah.
And what's funny is every week we'll get to Friday and like on like Friday morning, one of us will say, "Oh my goodness, I'm so tired. Maybe we should just get dinner and bring it in tonight." And we'll be like, "Yeah, like let's just get some work done today, and tonight we'll just be in." And then I'm here at this desk at 5:30, 6 o'clock, and he'll look at me and he'll be like, "Well, so we're gonna bring in?" I'm like, "No, we're going out. Me and you."
So you go out for dinner? Is that what you do? You go out for dinner?
Yeah, because what we'll do is we'll go and we have our 5 or 6 places that we like, and we always sit at the bar.
Right.
And because the difference is that if we were to bring dinner home, okay, then it's unloaded, eat it, you're done. 10 minutes, you're done. It's okay, and I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go upstairs to the studio, and I'm going to edit a show, or I'm going to write a post about a show. I'm going to do something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So at least if you're out.
Well, this is it. You got to wait for them to wait on you. You got to wait for them to make it. You got to wait for them to bring it. And your mom has another glass of wine and sit here and have another 20-minute conversation.
Yes.
And so it's sometimes it's an hour if we're exhausted. Sometimes it's 2 hours. But it's him and me.
Yeah.
And
it's just so important.
Yeah. And we love it. And so we usually will, all winter long, we'll try and get to our beach house in the winter.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so I usually work all day long. And then, like, around what we do at the beach house is good because the place that we like to have lunch is...
Where is the beach house?
Oh, Long Beach Island, RV
Okay.
Cedars.
How far is that from here?
Hour and a half.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we usually will hit out of here at like 5:30, 6 o'clock on a Friday night. We'll stop at this one restaurant that we like that's 15, 20 minutes away, have our dinner, and then we make the ride down. And then the rest, there's a little deli, Neptune Deli, that makes the best food ever. And that's 2 miles from our house. So unless it's full on monsoon, we'll walk to that, eat, and then walk back.
Right.
And that's like a cheers. We walk in, everybody knows your name.
Right,
hey,
right,
Joe, what are you having? You know,
yeah.
forget there's no menu. Just what do you want to make?
Lovely.
Do you have avocado today? Do you have spinach today?
Yeah.
Make me this, make me that.
Love it.
Yeah. And then so that's what it is. It's much harder to grab the downtime, but we do have the non-negotiable of him and me on Friday and Saturday night. And we usually do one night during the week in addition to that. Okay. So because
it's important because otherwise you don't get the time. It's hard.
I mean, we'll bring food in the other nights, but when you go to a restaurant and you're getting waited on, you're doing this.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So
you're not sitting on your phone.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Maybe some Instagram.
Yeah.
So one thing that you're obviously really good at is connecting people because that's what you do on the podcast all day long, right? You're bringing us amazing guests and sharing their stories they're sharing with us. So connecting is a big part of what you do. I have a little joke with my friend Liza Jones, who you know very well.
I love Liza.
And I call Liza the connector because Liza is also very good at connecting people.
Yes.
So Liza actually wanted me to ask you, what is the best business advice that you've been given in your business? Maybe not recently. Maybe it was years ago. But when you were doing it within the Window Works, what's some of the best advice that you've been given for running your business?
I have to say that, gosh, that's a big question.
It is a big question
because there's a lot of things there. My brain goes to a lot of things that are really like the legs on the table that are the foundation of a successful business.
Right.
So to pick one as the leading thing
Right.
is I'm going to take it and steal it from Vinny, from my husband.
Right.
He always insisted, and he taught all of us, me included, that you really have to know your mission.
Right.
You really
Yes.
have to establish what your company mission is, and stick to it.
So is that like the why? Is that like
It is very much like
the
the
mission
why.
statement? The why,
Right,
the
like
why.
the why. It is in a way. In other words, the why is to me, when I say the why, it's also when I'm asking somebody, what's your why are you doing it? It could be as simple as, why are you taking that appointment today? It could be, why are you doing that blog post? Okay,
Right.
so
Yeah.
have a point for
Yes.
something as mundane as that.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And the why, it would be, is, what is your passion? Why are you doing this? Why are you having a podcast? Well, I have a passion for it. That's not enough. What is more?
Yeah.
But the company mission is more finite. It is, what is the purpose of my business?
Right.
Why do I open this business?
Yeah.
Why do I turn this key?
Right.
And have I communicated that to every person that works for me? And have I communicated that to every person I sell to, interact with, are my clients?
And can I just say, so is that, okay, so just so I understand, is that like because you want them to help make their homes more beautiful, or is that more because, we got to make some money?
Well, I think one supports the other.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the thing is, if you're clear, so it's interesting because I have an interview up with Jill Zarin. She's one of the Real Housewives of New York, right? And in the interview, she mentioned her husband Bobby, who recently passed away. Her husband Bobby is the, I think, second generation of Zarin Fabrics in New York City, which is huge. Now his son is now running it, so it's third generation there. Huge. If you're from the area and you know anything about window treatments and design and fabrics, they're huge, okay? And they were wholesalers, and they do retail as well. But the point was, it was funny because in the conversation, she said how it used to be called Zarin Fabric Wholesalers or something. And she said, and then when she met and married Bobby and she started working in the business with him, she was like, oh, we got to call it just Zarin Fabrics. Like, this isn't high-end enough. This isn't luxury enough, And she said, and we have so many square footage here. We should bring some furniture in here, and we should bring some things in here, and we should bring this stuff in here. And she said, and she said, and $1 million later, Bobby looked at me and said, I told you we didn't need any of this stuff. This is all sucking the business and not supporting the business, but because he loved her and, whatever. And she said, and now even, she said she really is trying to suggest to her stepson, who's running the business now, to take and go back to Zarin Fabric Wholesale. She said because it identifies exactly who they are. They're the kind of place where you can get a $325 mohair, for $85. And it's first quality, first whatever, but maybe, somebody fabulous like Kravitz has 200 yards of a particular green and the tide is turned and they're not going to sell that green anymore. So they buy a first quality fabric and you can go in and take it, buy it, and walk away with it. And so the thing is that they were off their company mission. You know what I mean? And I shared in the show that we had a similar experience at Window Works. We were in business maybe, 5 years or whatever. We had a showroom. It wasn't this one. It was a different one. And I said to Vin, we should have accessories in here. We have people that come in and talk to us about window trim. We should have candlesticks and we should have little area rugs and stuff. And he's like, no, we shouldn't. And I'm like, no, we should. We should. He's like, no, our mission is to shade and, to protect and, filter light at the window. And I'm like, yeah, but these people come in here. We could sell this stuff to them. So off to the gift show I go, and I spend all this money, and I buy all this stuff, and we sold it at a garage sale like 5 years later because nobody buys that crap from a window treatment store. We're not an accessory boutique firm. No. We're a window treatment firm. So I have to say that's, there's a lot of legs, but you got to know what you got to do.
For sure.
What do you do?
I think that's a great actual analogy as well. To really understand that, You know, just because something's, and also if something's working for somebody else,
Right.
doesn't mean that it's right for you, which
Right.
is a little bit, I guess, really is a lead into, you know, maybe the next question. Maybe I'm giving you the answer to your next question. I don't know, but you know, one of the things I want to ask: what do you feel right now is the biggest struggle for designers? What do you feel like in our business?
Charging your worth. I didn't
Charging.
have to hesitate.
You do. Okay.
Charging what you're
Yeah.
worth. Honestly, I'll tell you what the biggest struggle is. First one is understanding what you're worth.
Okay.
Second
Nice.
is charging
Okay.
for it.
Okay. I thought you were going to say like all the social media and getting focused and all of that.
Yeah, I mean, you know what, that too.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what I have learned, I have to say, I say this a lot on the show,
Yeah.
and I don't really think that designers believe me.
Mm-hmm.
But what you do, easy, eyes
Yeah.
closed,
Yeah.
people cannot do.
Yeah. No, I agree.
They cannot.
Yeah.
And the thing is, what I feel like designers are like, when they hear that, they think about, you know, the beautifully designed rooms at Kips Bay, and they think, oh, I know, regular people can't do that. Like, I'm talking regular people can't accessorize their jacuzzi tubs.
Yeah.
I know it.
Yeah.
I'm one of them.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like, come on. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, and so what happens is that I don't care if you're in business, if you're an interior designer and you're in business 1 minute.
Yeah.
If somebody says, I need my jacuzzi tub accessorized,
Yeah.
charge them $150 for it.
Yeah,
because guess what? They
Yeah.
can't
They
do it
can't
without you.
themselves. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And I think that's the thing. And that may just be like kind of our nature. You know, we feel because it's creative and because I always say this when people say that what we do is fun, right?
Right.
It's so much fun.
Right.
You know, putting that amount to it. And I'm the same way as sometimes I say people like, you're only charging what? Like, up that. Just up it and see what happens.
Well, that's it.
Well, actually, we talked about this on my...
Did we
say it? On my... So, yeah, so we talked about, that was the topic that you had when we were in Las Vegas.
Because that's my thing.
And up it and just
That's
up
it.
it.
Just
try
try
a
it.
little bit more. What's the worst?
Do it as a joke. I
Yeah.
tell the kids I coach, just do it as a joke.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
do it as a joke.
Yeah.
Put your price out $50 more. Do it as a joke.
And then
Guess what?
happens?
Nobody laughs.
No.
They just write the check.
Exactly. That's the thing. Every time I've increased my hourly rate, my clients pay it.
That's it.
Right?
That's it.
And you know, and again, if you don't, and then if maybe you don't get, that's one of the best things about having our own business. Is that you can test the water.
Well, as I said,
if you test and after a month, you're like, okay, maybe I'm $500 an hour is too much, right? Or whatever. So you pull it back a little bit.
Yep.
So yeah, charging. Okay,
Yeah.
good. So
no, it's true. I mean,
yeah.
because I know that as a community, especially newer in business, truly have a hard time grasping what you are worth, and then the second obstacle is charging for it.
Yeah.
You know, if the thing is that there are a lot of consumers out there that have a decent eye and can accessorize their jacuzzi tub. But guess what? They're not going to call you to do it.
Right. Yes.
And that's what I say to them.
Yeah.
If somebody has called you for something that is in your wheelhouse so simple to do, then guess what?
Yeah,
it's not simple for them.
Yeah.
So don't feel embarrassed to charge for it.
Exactly. And it's the same with you know, I was listening to your podcast the other day, and you were saying, and I really think that a lot of people just designers don't want to niche into this, and part of it is because then we can't grow our portfolio. But I mean, so many of us just want to
do the consult and see you walk away.
And I love it. To me, it's easy money, and you know, you go in and you're giving so much value. I get the testimonial off of a 2 hour. Someone said to me, "You get a review off of that?" I'm like, "Yeah, because I'm giving so much value at that 2 hour consult.
Right.
I'm bringing samples. I'm asking questions up front, so I know their priorities.
Exactly.
You know, and I really think that can be a business.
Absolutely.
I just think people don't want to niche themselves down that much, and then they're worried they're not going to get their portfolio. But the amount of designers, you know, that we speak to that say, you know, if I could just do like 3 consults a week and make $1,000.
That's
right?
it. That's exactly right. It's exactly
I think
right.
it can be done.
Yeah. No, I have told, and when the thing is, what I've suggested to some of the designers that I'm coaching is, if your pipeline isn't full, then why not do that?
Yeah.
Why? Because one of the things I hear a lot is, I go into my consult and it doesn't convert to the full service.
Yeah.
And so then, you know, depending on all the reasons why, you have to pick it apart. Why? Maybe you're not doing a good presentation, this, that, and the other thing. But if you feel like, if we have a conversation and we feel like you've got it all pretty laid down, then I said, so what would be the worst thing if you did one consult every day, 5 days a week for $300. Like, and the thing is, if you did that every day for 3 or 4 weeks, some of them are bound to turn into the full service, project.
There's always people that are going to want to have more.
Meanwhile, that you're paying your bills though.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I love it. I love that philosophy.
Yeah.
I think we should get more people to do that. I'm going to test it out, actually.
I think you should.
I'm going to do it. Okay, so Wendy Wolaschuk, who we'll see tomorrow.
We'll see her tomorrow.
Yes. So she wanted me to ask you, what has been one of your ultimate, I know there's going to have been a few, aha moments from your podcast regarding the business advice that you've so not just like who's been your favorite. I didn't want to ask you that question because I figured that was
pretty
like
hard. Picking your kid.
It's too hard, exactly, right? So I think really what it is what was kind of like one of your favorite aha moments that you learned something from one of your guests that you then thought, I'm going to use this in my business.
Okay, so two different ways. So for something that I've learned from guests that we put into our business is the Monday morning meetings.
Okay.
We went, 34 years without having Monday morning meetings.
Right.
And the reality is that what was funny in hearing that, if here's my aha. If I had been talking to an interior designer that is him or herself and maybe one assistant, and they had a meeting every Monday morning, I'd be like, oh, that's good for you. I'm glad you do that. That's awesome to do. But I've got 10 people, and this is too big. We can't sit down. We can't sit still. Right. You know what I mean? For every Monday morning, right? But what happened was I started to hear over and over again, Laura Umansky, Marie Flanagan, Chad James, these firms with 10, 12, 15 employees, and some of them, like Laura Umansky, has does offices wherever her two places are. Right. See, this is where it's starting to go after 300 episodes.
Sure, fair enough. We won't blame you for that.
Yeah, like I remember her and I remember her lesson, but I remember her two offices are. But, out of town a lot, and still, like, the Monday morning meeting is non-negotiable.
Yeah.
And so I was like, and it made me also recall that it was something that we used to do.
Right.
So there was a point, like, we opened up one showroom. Within 6 months, we opened up a second showroom, and another year after that, we opened a third showroom.
Right.
And so we had 3 showrooms. They were all about 10, 12, 15 miles apart from each other in a triangle. And Vin used to, like, every 3 weeks, we used to close the other 2 showrooms at, like, 3 o'clock, and every 3 weeks, all the employees from the other showrooms would drive to our one showroom, and we would have a meeting.
Yeah.
And so I was like, we got to do this.
Yeah.
And so we started doing it. It'll be 2 years in September since we started doing it. And it really, really is.
Helps you regroup, helps you just figure out what's on track. Are we still doing our mission?
Absolutely.
Right.
And the mistakes that has saved us, because we're sitting there with salespeople and installers all talking, and we're reviewing projects. Billy will come back and he'll say last week, and he'll sit there in a whole 10-minute discussion of me and Kim on why the bracket we had didn't work, and he, thankfully he's a genius, and he goes into his truck and he does poof and makes another bracket, but so that was something that I relearned from the show, was inspired to do by multiple guests, and really has paid off.
Yeah, and it's really important to have those conversations to figure out where you're at, and it gives that opportunity to open up for questions like, hey, you know what, we kind of did this a couple weeks ago, where are we at with that? And it also helps because then when you're communicating with clients or designers, then they know that you've talked to your people, so it shows that you're all together, which a lot of times that doesn't happen. The trades aren't communicating to each other, right?
Right.
Good.
Right. Yeah. No. So that is good.
So there you go, Wendy. There you go. There's the answer to your question. So I wanted to ask you, what can we expect from LuAnn over the next 3 years? What does your kind of future? What are you kind of thinking about? What have you kind of got brewing? Can you share something with us in the pot?
Well, okay. So it's funny because there's 20 things happening here. What I know is that some of them will happen, some of them will be morphed, some will be kicked off the list.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So, do I know for sure the one thing I know for sure that will happen is the second book will come out.
Right.
So, and that will be the things I learned from a well-designed business. So that second book will come out in the next calendar year.
So there'll be a lot of people waiting for that.
Yeah, so that will be good. That's a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
That will definitely happen.
And sorry, when that's happening next year?
Yeah, it's in organization mode now. It's a lot of information from the podcast, so that's happening.
There's a lot of episodes.
Yes. So, and that is much more difficult to do because the first was literally just, okay, Luann, how do you run this business? How do you and Vinny and Billy run this business? Like, okay, this is the first thing you do. This is the second thing you do. This is the third thing. So this is different. So that will be out, I would say, by anywhere between December and February of 2019. Like, so that's that. The other thing is that I'm really tweaking and figuring out the best way for me to help and coach designers, and the best way for both of us. For me and for them. And so I just did a mastermind with 8 designers, and one is just more adorable than the next, and they are just.
We all are.
Right. It's so true. I love jazzed up people. I love people that come to learn and want to do that. And it was what I'm learning from the different things I'm doing. The other thing I really like the one-on-one.
Yes.
The one-on-one coaching sessions have been amazing. Yes. And it's so fulfilling.
You can dig deeper in those.
Right. Yeah. It is. Not scalable though. Right? Not so scalable.
Right.
So what happens is, in order to realistically, like we're talking business here, in order realistically to do that, then the price has to go higher and higher and higher, and then it becomes less and less available to
That's why the group
the entry level designers.
Yes.
So I'm toying with different things. I was really, it was funny because at High Point Market, had a couple of designers, palling around with us, for the couple of days, and it was fun. Sarah Lynn Brennan and Natasha Jones, right?
Right.
So good. Yeah. And so we had a lot of little mini impromptu brainstorming sessions where they were asking me little questions, and I was helping them in this and that and the other thing. And Sarah Daniele was there, and we were all trading information. And then at one point there was a conversation on the last day on lunch on somebody they were telling about what a designer was doing in her business model, and I just was like, oh wait, I could do that. Like I could translate that to what I'm doing.
Right.
And so we talked about it, and it's like a way to group coach, like kind of like an on-demand group coaching community.
Yes.
And so I was like, okay, stop. Okay, we are all talking about that now. I need to commandeer this conversation. I'm like, I hope you feel like I've given you enough value the last 2 days that I can just literally now ask you to think tank with me.
Yes.
Can we just brainstorm about my business here for a minute?
and
they were like, yeah, what do you want to know? And so we just did this conversation about a membership model for group coaching where you pay and then you have access to me every month. And so the thing is, we didn't invent the concept. Okay?
No one's inventing anything. You don't reinvent the wheel these days, right?
Right. But it was the first time that I thought about it in relation to what I'm doing. And like I said, the reason that I jumped and wanted to have this conversation with them and ask them if it would be valuable and what would make it valuable and what would it look like is because, like I said, the podcast is growing, the audience is growing.
Yeah.
So how can I...
And people want a bit of you, right?
Yeah, and I want it too. I love it. I love getting to know the designers and their individual businesses and helping them and having those light bulb moments.
Yes.
They're just like, whoa.
Yeah.
And you're just like, yes, we just killed it, right?
We came up with it.
That's it. This is the key. It unlocked the door.
Yeah.
And so...
And then when you hear that they've taken it away, they've done it, and they're like, oh my gosh, I did this. And you're just like,
yeah. So there has to be, and that's what I'm going through that process of learning how to do it. Because, look, you either just stop doing it or you start charging. I know business coaches now that started out at, $200 an hour and then are, $900, $1,000, $1,500 an hour. Yeah. That's a model. Yeah. I could do that. Yeah. But then I'm not going to be back with the people that have the biggest light bulb moments.
Yes.
I have to say, I remember within the first 7 or 8 months of doing the podcast, I was interviewing one of the Power Talk Friday experts from outside the industry.
Right.
And, our pre-air conversation, our air conversation, and our off-air conversation. And this woman said to me, and I hadn't even put the toe in the water for coaching or anything yet. And she said to me, she goes, so when are you going to start coaching? And I said, it'll come. I said, I'm, really I'm getting this process down. Yes. I'm still pumping this podcast out, and I need to have it like a well-oiled machine before I add another layer to it. It's exactly what I said to her, right? And she goes, can I give you some advice? She said, when you do it, she goes, I definitely think you should just go and target 6-figure earners and above. She said, your business expertise, she goes, the body of knowledge that you have before you even come to the podcast, and then your advantage of interviewing so many people and learning so many things. She said, you really aren't, you could go right to that level.
Yeah.
Charge a lot of money and just do it.
Right.
But I really like working with people who have the big aha moments. You know what I mean?
Just learning, right?
Yeah.
And that need probably the most help.
Yeah, and it's funny, at that moment, I remember thinking, because I don't have patience for bull crap. I mean, I don't. I don't have patience for it's hard. Yeah. I don't have patience for that. Won't work for me. I don't have patience for that. And it's like
IDBS where there is no BS.
Yeah,
right? There's no time for nonsense.
Yeah, there isn't. And so at that moment, in reflection a year ago, I remember thinking, that's probably a good way for me to do this, because thinking that at the higher level, the more experienced level, I would experience less of, I can't do it, it doesn't work for me. Right. But it's not true.
Yeah,
and I just proved it to myself in this mastermind. Right. These are 8 really intelligent women that are motivated and are taking action and are just killing it with what's going on.
Right.
And I just, and I love it. So I thought, I can't price myself out of this demographic. That's it. I don't want to price. It's as if somebody had the opportunity to maybe go on to only full service luxury design, but likes to do the consultations 5 times a week and change somebody's home.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing.
The tools to just.
It's the exact same thing. And so I'm struggling with how to do that now. I'm struggling means I'm working through.
Yes.
How to create it so it's profitable for me.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Right.
It's a business, not a hobby.
Yeah.
But that doesn't price me out of that space.
Well, when you figure it out, let us know.
Yeah, it's like we're working on it. We're working on it. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm all about collaboration.
We're going to talk. The last question that I wanted to ask you was just wondering, and maybe we probably already touched on this really, but I mean, how do you feel? Well, so right now, about the industry right now. So right now, we talk about how crazy it is in terms of like Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and blogging and video and trying to do it all. But also, we also now have this layer of like people shopping you online, and you hear a lot about that. And so people doing e-design and trying to get on the train of affiliate marketing. What's your feeling? Like, you've just come back from market. I mean, I'll tell you, for me, I still think that the business can thrive. I still think if you brand yourself, in a certain way, if you want to just do consults, if you want the luxury sort of, I still think it's there. But I think people still need it, and I think there's people who are still willing to pay. That's my view. Now I'm telling you my view. But but what I want to, do you feel like we need to have this big panic right now in the industry, and that there's not going to be a need for designers, and we're just people can do everything online and do their concept drawing and upload the Benjamin Moore color and figure it out on their own?
The thing is, what it is that I think this is where me doing business for 36 years makes me, on one hand, have a perspective that I think some of us in the industry that are not doing it that long, and even if you're doing something 10 or 12 years long, when you put 36 to 10 years, it's a lot. Think about you're 25 years old.
Yeah.
How much went in your life from, popped out of your mama's belly to your 25 years? Well, that's how many more years in business I have than, a lot of our peers, right?
Yes.
And what I'm saying is it's not about showing off. It's not about bragging. It's about, I have the perspective of looking back and watching what happened in the window treatment industry.
Right.
I just said this at market at one of the things. When WindowWorks started, The only place that you can get you could have gotten a custom measured blind was through a retailer like me. Right. That's it.
Right.
You know, I didn't even know if Home Depot was open when we first started. Right. Like I don't even know if there was a Home Depot. That's how freaking old I am.
What about single?
Okay. You know what I'm saying?
And what about like single like kind of seamstresses? They weren't really.
But that's what I'm saying. In other words, you had to go to somebody to make it. Like you had to, like if you wanted a blind, let's just call it blind. If you wanted a blind, you had to go into a specialty retailer. Yes. Okay. And then guess what happened? Oh, you know, Home Depot opened, and then they started selling blinds. Oh, and then Budget Blinds opened.
Blinds to Go.
And Blinds to Go opened. Blinds to Go is a mile and a half down the road. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then what happened? Smith & Noble happened. Right. And you could order it online. Yeah. And then what happened in the last 3 years is the Shade Store opened up. Yes. Okay? Yes. And the Shade Store is the first one to go into the luxury end. Right. Okay? They went right into the D&D building in New York City. They're hooked up with, you know, whoever they're hooked up with. Right. And, you know, whatever. And so my thing is that what I know is that my customer wants me to do it for them. Yeah. Yeah. She doesn't care. Yeah. She doesn't care that Blinds to Go is a mile away. Yes. She doesn't want to measure it. She doesn't want to think about it. Yeah. She doesn't even want to go in there. Yeah. She doesn't even want to go to the Shade Store. Now, my target client, higher end demographic, probably walks around the D&D building. I'm not talking about designer trade now, but designer trade too. Sure. But regular retail client, you know, they all walk around. Yeah. You know, they'll probably sell them. I don't know if they will or they won't. But the point is they're going to walk in there. But here's the thing. When I come into your house, I'm telling you what shade for which window, why. You're giving the whole... Not like, here's every shade you could have. Which one should I have in my house? Yes. So you're guiding them. That's it. The process. Hello. Yeah. That's what you guys do. Yeah. You're guiding them throughout the whole process of design. And the reason I know this to be true is for two ways. Not only do I know it looking back in our years in business and watching the industry change around us and us just keep putting our head down, keep adding value. Yeah. We have free shop and home service. Oh, we went from 1 year to 3 years on warranties. Okay. We went from, now we can do awnings. You're changing. You're changing as we're just keep adding value as opposed to going, oh my God, we have to be cheaper, less expensive to compete with Shade Store and to compete with Smith & Noble. We have to, you know, no. We add. We keep adding things, and we do this for you, and we do this for you, and we do this for you. Don't you want all that? Of course you want all that. We want all that. We take our shoes off in the rain. We do this. We do that. We want all that, right? And so the thing is, I know it from that experience, but the other experience that I know it from is directly related to you guys. So my daughter moves to Boston last year. She's like, you know what? We're going to stay here a couple of years. I finally want our apartment to look like we live here. Not like, you know, his crap, my crap, your crap. Right. And so I said, all right. I said, well, she goes, can you help me decorate it? Okay. And I'm like, yeah, sure. But she's here. I'm there. You know what I mean? Or whatever, vice versa, right? And 3 months later, she's like, I still haven't done anything with the apartment. I'm like, you know, it's just not that hard. Did you hire a designer? You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, and she's like, she goes, I said, what do you want it to look like? Why don't you make some Pinterest boards? Why don't you make some house boards? Why don't you do this? And then, and like 2 weeks later, she goes, I don't know what I want. I'm like, okay, how about this? I said, because you know, she's married. So I said to her, I said, look, is your husband okay with me just deciding, or do we have to run things by? Right. And she's like, let me find out. So next day she emailed me. She goes, no. I said, okay, just give me your credit card. Thank you very much. I ordered it all off of Wayfair because it's only a 1 year, 2 year apartment. Right. We're not going to spend a lot of money. But here she is, an intelligent, Georgetown educated woman that could not go on Wayfair and figure out what to order. Right. So, this is my point, and this is what you guys forget. Yes. She's had the money, had the time, had 25 years of, you know, osmosis design training, and still was like, I don't know what bed to go with, what bedspread to go with, what rug to go with, what lamp to go with, what, you know, pillow. It's a lot to think about. You either got it or you don't want to do it, or you don't really want to have to take the time. This is my point. So the heck with it. Put your head down. Yes. Do what you do. Do it well and charge for it. Yes, and charge your worth. Charge your worth. Charge. Well, LuAnn, I just love this. I know. Thank you. So fun.
And if you're not already following LuAnn and listening to her podcast, be sure that you do that. It's a well-designed business. Click on the podcast. Make sure you get on the list. as well. I've been on her episodes a couple of times. We got episode 325 as well as 237, so be sure to check those out. And be sure to go get my design packages and rates sheet with coaching video for free. This will help you package up all those great services that you have to offer to your clients. See you next time.
I'm going to have to stop this one.
Is it?
It's overheating.